Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we send blessings and salutations to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his family and the Sahaba radiyallahu an. May Allah bless us with his mercy and forgive us of our mistakes. Ameen. My dear brothers, today I want to talk a little bit about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposes falsehood. How he exposes falsehood for everybody to see. Because, sometimes, if you're giving dawah to someone, be it a Muslim or a non-Muslim, there's sometimes a question comes up that, you was born Muslim. That's not fair. It's easier for you. You already took one step, has already been taken for you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were born Muslim. This other person, maybe they're somewhere, maybe there's not many Muslims, maybe they don't see Islam in a form that attracts them to Islam. So some people sometimes say, that's a bit unfair. You were born into the religion and you're saying you're going to be saved, you're going to go to Jannah. That other person wasn't born a Muslim. But the last few months and even the last few years, surely we all realize that Allah's grand plan is so amazing that we can see all of the time that falsehood gets exposed. The things that are false, the taghut, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to it in the Quran, the things that are not where we get our solutions from Islam, the other things, the other idols, even though at times they try to present those things in a positive way, they very easily and quickly get found out to be how worthless and how false they are. And most of it has happened, even just some examples in the last 3-4 weeks. So today I wanted to first of all just give you some of these examples of just how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposes the falsehood. And before I give you those examples, try to think of them from the point of view of the common people in these societies. I'm not even talking Muslim. Just try to think from the non-Muslim point of view. Because the non-Muslim must be in a very bad moral dilemma at the moment, because a lot of their values are based on, they think these countries that they live in are like progressed. They are the countries that decide the rules. They have democracy. They have human rights. They have international courts. They have all of these things. So they try to present themselves as the authorities of truth, of justice. And the people who live in these societies, even without realizing, they assume that they are on the right side of history. They assume that they are the good guys. And they assume the other people are the bad guys. Certainly the Muslims are the bad guys, because that's what is portrayed to them. But in the last few weeks, many of them, and speak to non-Muslims, many of them are in a quandary or in a moral dilemma. Wait there, we think we have these values, but actually we don't. And more people have been questioning these. I picked up a few examples that I want to share with you. I have 6 of them. I might not have time to go through them all, but I'll try to get through some of them. They're just current affairs. They're just topical things that have happened in the last 3-4 weeks that all of us really should be thinking about. And at the end, I will explain why I think it's important that we all embrace the understanding of what's going on and make sure we tell people about it. A few weeks ago, so number 1, a few weeks ago, you know when the ICJ ruling happened, the International Court of Justice ruling against Israel in regards to there being a plausible case for genocide. What happened very quickly after? Literally like the next day. Can you remember the UNWRA funding was cut? Yeah, and who cut the funding? UK, US, Australia, Germany, same. And I know some of the brothers have mentioned this already, but can you link that as soon as this ruling was made, immediately after they decided to cut the funding? A lot of people, even non-Muslims, were like, wait there a minute, a genocide, they're saying a genocide is happening, and the very next day you cut aid to those people. This got me thinking, and I did a bit more research. How many of you wondered why there is a UNWRA? Who are UNWRA? United Nations Work and Relief Agency. Why is there one just for the Palestinians? And then there's UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Why is there two? One is for just the Palestinians and was created in 1949, immediately after the creation of Israel. And the other one is for all other refugees. If we don't think, we will think, oh, that's a good thing. They made something just for the Muslims. They made something just for this one particular issue is such a big issue. We create an organization just to help them. Is that what we thought? Or is that what we think? But do you know what the real reason? The real reason is if they didn't make this and they put everybody under the UNHCR, then the UNHCR, which is for all refugees, one of the rules within there is the right for refugees to return from where they came from. So they had to create a different body without this rule so that the Palestinians could never go back to where they come from, where they live. This is the same UN that created Israel, then created this body to look after the Muslims. And yes, no doubt, they have helped them. But why? Because they want to make sure that they can't go back. They've created Israel for a reason. They won't let them go back. So that's why there are even these two institutions. How many of us have asked that question? But a lot of non-Muslims have asked this question in the last few weeks. They're wondering, why does this even exist? Why did we pull our funding from them? And why is it that we are on the wrong side of history in that the genocide is happening, and rather than supporting the Muslims or the people that are being genocided, we are supporting those people who said that, oh yeah, some of the people from this organization were involved in October the 7th, but haven't provided any evidence of that. Can you see? This is just number one reason, and I'm just highlighting just how much their falsehood is exposed. And why it's important for us to know these things, because we need to mention them. And I'll reiterate that towards the end. Example number 2. Surely all of you have heard of that 6-year-old child, 6-year-old Hind. Everybody's seen the story. She was in a vehicle with her uncle, auntie, her cousins. They were dead in the car. Most of them were dead in the car, and she was stuck. She couldn't go out, and she rang, the Red Crescent. And the audio recording is available, and it's been promoted and it's been heard across the globe. Okay, mainstream media tried to hide it away, but a lot of media channels showed it, and it was on social media quite a lot. But it highlighted again the falsehood of what they are trying to do, because this innocent child is ringing to say she needs help. The person on the other side of the phone, they arranged for the ambulance service to go and rescue her. And Israel not only killed her in the vehicle, and obviously everybody else in that vehicle, they also bombed this ambulance as well. And killed both of the ambulance workers too. And this is internationally known now. And remember, this happened after they already said there's plausibility for genocide here, and you need to calm down. You need to not kill as many people. You need to kill more nicely. This is the advice. But the key thing is, everybody is seeing all of this. The difference between many of the massacres, genocides, and things that have happened in the past is that they weren't in the public domain as this one is. Allah is exposing their falsehood. Allah is completely exposing their falsehood. Number 3, we have seen what's happened with our brothers in Yemen. We're seeing that they are the ones that are trying to take some action in order to prevent or cause issues for those who are carrying out a genocide. Yet, those people who say, we are the carriers of justice. We are the carriers of democracy. We are the carriers of freedoms. We are the global policeman. We are the people that are protecting the world. They're the ones bombing Yemen in order to further facilitate the genocide. Isn't the falsehood being exposed even more? That's number 3. Number 4, you might have also seen another video. I'm giving examples of social media because like the mainstream media tries to cover these things up, but we see them on social media. There was that sister who, because the Israeli snipers were killing anybody that came near the hospital for treatment, you see her kind of duck down like this, and she runs across to go and help this person to get onto a carrying mat to bring them into the hospital. My point with this one is, everybody can see this, and it shows these are the real heroes. What are their heroes? Superman, Spider-Man, Iron Man. Rubbish that's made up. That's their superheroes. Because they need to make up superheroes because they don't have real superheroes. The Muslims, we have heroes who are putting their life on the line to protect their other Muslim brothers and sisters, and not just Muslim brothers and sisters, to protect human beings. Can we not see the falsehood that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exposing? This is their falsehood that we can see in 4K. We can see it everywhere. And then to link to this one, look at some of their people, the youngsters. This is important for our children. They look up to these role models, KSI and Kanye West and these people. When people ask them, what is your opinion on Palestine? As if it was not blatant that a genocide is going on. Oh, it's too complicated, I'm not going to comment. What kind of rubbish is this? Where are these football players and movie stars and people with massive platforms? Okay, maybe 1 or 2 have said some things positive about Palestinians and Muslims. Majority of them, at best, they say nothing. At worst, they go, oh, it's complicated. These are their role models. These are their superheroes. And this is the falsehood that it's exposing. And this is why we need to teach our children that, look, okay, yeah, we might watch some of their entertainment, but when it comes to the crunch, they can't even speak for the truth. They can't even speak out that a genocide is happening. They're scared that because the Zionists have much control over Hollywood and Bollywood and all of this wood and that wood, that's why they're scared to speak. What if their contracts get cancelled? The falsehood is being exposed. Last 2. What about the example of Shamima Begum? We even know now that Canadian intelligence was involved in taking her with ISIS to go and, when the whole ISIS experiment was going on. Her citizenship got revoked. What about the citizenship of the British citizens that are going and fighting in a foreign military in Israel to commit a genocide? Welcome back. Welcome back. Come back. Go back to your universities. Go back and give your lectures. What kind of double standards are these? So you facilitated people going in and working with ISIS, and then you took their citizenship and you made out through them to be terrorists. But here, people are actually going out, committing genocide, killing children. Thousands and thousands of women and children. Nearly 30,000 people have died now. Likely it's more than that, but that's the numbers that are being portrayed. More than half of that is women and children. Much more than half of that is women and children. Yet people going there, committing that genocide, coming back as British citizens, no problem. If any one of you went and fought in Syria, if any one of you went out and did anything like that, then we know what would happen to us. Very much double standards. But again, the falsehood is completely exposed. The last one, what happened in that hospital in the West Bank? They went in and killed 3 Palestinians, assassinated them. Wait there, what happened to your due process? What happened to the fact that you can take these people, put them in a court and judge them on what they might have done wrong? If you think they're from Hamas group and all of these things, then go and take them to trial. That's your values. You say you take them into court, you give them the right of having a case, all of these things, but no. You go into the hospital and you kill them undercover. This is a war crime according to their own Geneva Convention. Falsehood. It's all completely exposed. So these are just a few examples just from the last 2 or 3 weeks. The main message is, look, they have these, they have the ICJ, ICC, UN, Geneva Conventions, war crimes, all of these things. Every single one of these things, we know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls these things taghut. These are things that come from their way of life. They are solutions that they try to promote to the rest of the world, that this is going to solve your problems. They're all been exposed. Every single one of them have been exposed. When we say La ilaha, we say La at the beginning. Yeah, why do we say that? Because we say there is nothing other than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought. This is part of our contract with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a part of our shahada. And this is the important thing, is all of these other things that are now being exposed for their falsehood, we can see that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to do. We need to highlight all of these things, and this is the bit where our role comes in. Because many of us maybe right now are going, what do I do? All of these things are happening. Allah's plan is that all of that falsehood is being exposed regardless of anything we're doing here. Regardless. Okay, yes, we might be sharing a few things online. We might be following things, commenting, and that does help. But all of this, Allah has done this without our help. They've exposed themselves. What do they call the International Court of Justice? The greatest court on earth. What rubbish. If the greatest court on earth can't stop a genocide. In fact, the situation is worse. Look at our brothers and sisters in Rafah now, 1.4, 1.5 million of them in a small space, and they're continuing to bomb them. What rubbish are these institutions, these taghut, these idols? These are their idols. Do remember this, my brothers and sisters. That the idea is that the idols we had at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Islam first came, we needed to get rid of the physical idols. That doesn't mean there are not idols today. These are the idols of today. These so-called institutions, these peacekeeping apparatuses, these are the idols of today. And if we stay quiet and don't expose them, again, what am I asking? What am I asking of myself? Expose their ideas. Show to them that these idols of yours all they do is promote falsehood. When it comes to something that's happening, which is killing babies, how many of you saw that video someone made that, the number of children that were killed, it started off as all the children that were 0, less than 1 year old, and it's scrolling. 0, 0. You was waiting to see the first child who was 1. These are your idols that they can't even stop the killing of children who haven't even reached the age of 1. So these are the examples, and these are the things as Muslims and as human beings we need to expose this falsehood. And I mention this because a lot of non-Muslims are doing this as well, by the way. Some of the most viral videos on TikTok and online that are exposing all these falsehoods, a lot of them are from non-Muslims. So that's why I'm highlighting them, that it's important that we all are involved in making sure we highlight these taghut, these things that are not from Islam, these things that are causing not just Muslims problems, human beings to be suffering in the world. And we have a role in doing that. We're at the time where Ramadan is just around the corner. Some people, they celebrated like the Miraj, Isra Miraj. was last week. Some people celebrated this and remembered this. There were mosques that did stories and went into all of this. The verse in Surah Al-Isra where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this. He mentions it at the end. He says he is the all-hearing, he is the all-seeing. That's what he mentions. And it's very applicable to today. Because how many of you, when you saw a mother crying her eyes out because a child had been killed, you're thinking, Allah's listening to that prayer. He's going to do something. And we are fearful that if we don't do anything, then that mother's dua is going to be against us. Because what have we done to help? Because Allah is all hearing, all seeing. And this is why, with Ramadan especially coming very soon, we need to make that effort to expose all of these incorrect values, all of these taghut, all of these idols. And this is, if you can all set yourself an objective to do this, that is the purpose of today's bayan. So I'll bring it to an end there because I've gone a bit over, I apologize. So, Ya Allah, allow us to expose falsehood and taghut. Protect us from inaction and allow us to be amongst those who helped and were not bystanders when our ummah was in need of people of action. Ameen.